Okay, today my guest is Professor Pervez Ghauri. I will keep my introduction short to maximize our time with him. In the next 30 minutes or so, we'll talk about Pervez as a person. Professor Ghauri is a thought leader and an esteemed scholar, and finally is a mentor to many PhD students and junior faculty. For the sake of time, I'll skip many of his accomplishments and give you a very quick snapshot. Professor Ghauri is a fellow of the AIB and the European International Business Academy. He is the editor-in-chief for International Business Review and consulting editor for JIBS. He served as an editor and guest editor for Journal of World Business, Management International Review, Journal of World Business, International Business and Management Series, and European Journal of Marketing. He has served as a vice president of AIB, in addition to many activities as organizer or chair in several conferences such as the European International Business Academy, AIB UK, IMP, CIMAR, and he received the Outstanding Paper Award from the Qualitative Market Research Journal, Best Paper Award from the British Academy of Management, EIBA, as well as the Best Dissertation Award given to student and the advisor by the European Federation for Management Development. In addition to many keynote speeches, he appears in national and international media outlets. An interesting fact, Pervez speaks English, Swedish, Urdu, Punjabi, Norwegian, Hindi, and Dutch. Thank you, Pervez, for joining us.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. It is a great honor to be on this forum.
Thanks. So first question always, what did you want to become when you were a child?
Well, when I was in high school, I wanted to be an Air Force pilot. We had a relative, my uncle, who was a wing commander in Air Force, and I used to look up to him. And then that was my dream, that I want to fly these jets, very fast jets. But by the time I reached university, I think that dream fizzled out. And
where did you grow up?
I'm born in Pakistan. I grew up in Pakistan, in Lahore. My father was in civil service, so I am the first academic. Now there are many, but at that time, when I entered, our first academic in our family, first person who did PhD. So most of my family is in civil services or Army and Air Force. Mm-hmm. We are that type of family background.
When was the first time you realized there is a difference between domestic and international?
Well, not. I think after university, when I was in the university, my father was sent to Sweden for official work for a couple of years. He spent there. And then when he came back, he was full of stories and praise for Sweden. So then I realized there is a much wider and much better world outside. So I got more and more interested in international. And then I really wanted to be international.
Pervez, how did you learn Swedish?
When the time came that my brother and I were to send to abroad for education or whatever, then as I said, father had talked so much about Sweden, so we thought Sweden is the best place. So we both went to Sweden. But to enter the university there, I had bachelor from Pakistan. So I wanted to do my master and PhD in Uppsala University, one of the very good universities. And then the entry level exam I had to pass, like for England, you have to pass TOEFL or other IELTS. For Sweden, you had to pass 4 levels of Sweden. Wow. So that's when I started learning on my own, first in the university for foreign language speaking students, and then privately. And I arrived there in April, and by September, I could enter the university. I passed the 4 levels of Swedish.
It's a big commitment, actually, isn't it?
Yeah, I thought that's a big achievement.
I mean, I normally ask, how did you choose to be an IB scholar? But now that you're talking about Uppsala, obviously there's going to be a huge emphasis. Who was your advisor?
Jan Johansson, I have been a lucky person. So Professor Jan Johansson was my first professor, supervisor, and the second professor, Finn Wiedersheim Paul. Okay. And interestingly, Jan Erik Wallne was my examiner. He was in Stockholm School of Economics. So he came as examiner. So I had all the three big names from Uppsala.
Yeah, Hall of Fame. Hall of Fame. So something that is not on your CV, what is something not many people know about you?
I think that something that perhaps is not on my CV is that my personality, which is developed from abroad. In fact, when we live in Pakistan, as you know, we live at home, we live in very protected environments, and we are not exposed very much to outside world. So when I came to Sweden, everything opened up for me. And so my personality is sort of very much influenced by my time in Sweden. And after that, I have lived in 6 different countries, as you mentioned. I have lived in Norway, in Netherlands. I spent one and a half year in America, and then a long time in United Kingdom. So this living in different cultures and different places had taught me a lot, and have taught me to be a bit more sensitive, cultural sensitive person, and a bit more collaborative, because then you realize when you go to every time a new country, you know that it's you who have to go and knock on the door. It's you who have to open up your personality to get friends, and luckily I have friends in all these countries for life, friends for life.
Very nice. Regrets, have you got any?
Yeah, regrets. I should have been maybe more persistent, more focused, because I did my PhD in international business negotiations, which I thought was very fascinating subject. And but then slowly I moved away from there. But now every now and then I think, oh, I should have stayed in negotiation, because the more and more I realize that if you are in business, or if you are in business studies, there is no business without negotiations. So I should have more specialized in that area. But I still teach that, and I still do every now and then 1 paper or 2 papers on negotiations. Recently we did on Brexit negotiations, and so on. So I think that is that I have been to too many places. So negotiations, then I went over to multinational enterprises, started off with entry strategies, and then all multinational enterprises and their activities in emerging markets, different type of activities, from joint ventures to mergers and acquisitions, etc., and so on. So that's it. Maybe I should have been more focused.
True. What did you learn from your biggest failure?
Well, that was not very good, because first time after my PhD, I sent a paper to JIBS, and it came back with very critical comments. And although they said that you can correct it and resubmit as a new paper, but I was very disheartened, and I thought this is very bad. Because at that time, my supervisors and other people from Uppsala had published or were publishing in JIBS. So that was sort of goal. But then but later on I realized that this is the way it works. So you have to have a thick skin, and you have to take the critique, and you have to work on. But of course I have done many mistakes in my life otherwise also, but you always learn. So like for the mistake I mentioned, I learned that I have to be persistent and keep on. And at that time, we'll come to other issues later. Okay.
Sure. Where did that paper end up in?
In the end, it ended up in industrial marketing management.
Perfect.
Because it was negotiation between companies.
I see. What are you most passionate about?
Well, I have over the years become more passionate about research, about writing. As you mentioned, I started the journal International Business Review, and I ran it for 29 years, and it is now among the top 3 IB journals, which I think I am very passionate about. I have been very passionate about it, and I ran it with lots of passion and lots of hard work. And I think that is it. And then, of course, I am a bit passionate about my family.
Perfect. Now I'm going to switch to research,
Okay.
if it's okay with you. How do you explain your research to people who don't read your work regularly? Like you're stranded in a pub, locals don't know you. How do you explain your research, and how do you explain why your research is important?
Well, we have been doing research on multinational corporations in emerging markets. So our research is very important in the sense that we have to look at what these foreign companies are doing. They have gone through different phases in emerging markets, and now there is another phase. We'll talk about it later. But this is it, that we have to understand how these companies go. What do they do there? Are they positive for local companies or negative for local companies? Are they putting any pressures on local governments? Are they diverting? Because there is a blame on multinationals for some time that they go to emerging markets and serve only the top 10% of elite population, and they don't care about the rest of the country. Not only that they even force local governments to create infrastructure for their activities, whether it is roads or telephones or whatever. And that means that they are diverting their local funds towards their interest. So not only the other money that would have been spent on healthcare or education is being spent to serve the multinationals, because local government think they will bring lots of jobs with them. So these type of things we have to understand. And then my other field, as I said, negotiation, that also is very, very important in my opinion.
Sure.
Perhaps the most important function in doing business. So, and there also you have to understand, many people think negotiation is a technique or tool or skill. It's really not. It's the knowledge behind that. You must understand how to convince people. You must understand how you can make others to accept your argument the way you want it. You are trying to put it together. So how to resolve conflicts. These conflicts can be at workplace, in family, in business. So that is the base for negotiation research.
Pervez, what are some of the omitted variables in IB research or understudied areas in IB?
We started talking about multinationals, and I think the understudied areas are the externalities that multinationals create. That what is the impact of multinationals on the society, on the poor people, on now we have lots of discussion on climate change and pollution, etc. So, and there is a big opinion out there, as you know, that multinationals are part of the problem, not solution of the problem. And then we have to look at how we can divert them towards being a solution, because I personally believe multinationals can play a very positive role in achieving controlling the climate, in achieving sustainability in the environments, and of course in reducing the inequalities in the world. And that is, these aspects are in fact really ignored by IB scholars. And for the last 6-7 years, I am working mostly on these issues. So that's why I think that is the part which is not studied, that what positive role multinationals can play toward these social problems, sustainability, to climate change, to reducing inequalities, and so on. So I think these are very, very important issues, not only in emerging markets where they go, but also in the developed world.
It's actually the answer to my next question as well. It is, what's the next 5 years of IB? What's the next 5 years of cutting research? It's basically social problems and MNCs, like you're identifying
Yeah.
that one, right?
Yeah.
So what do you think about the increasing sentiments towards nationalism or populism? How is that going to be playing out, especially in Europe?
Yeah, I think this is the thing that's why there is some discussion about anti-globalization, because in the last 5 years or so, there has been a lot of discussion about nationalism and localization. Governments in the West are forcing their companies not to buy from abroad and not to produce their products abroad and these type of things. So I think this has influenced a little bit on globalization speed, but I don't think it is going to go that way, because the globalization is there to stay, and it's not just question of where you buy cheaper thing. It's question of the capabilities in the global level, or the global level capability reside in different parts of the world. It's not only the raw material that resides in different parts of the world, capabilities also reside in different parts of the world. So if you want to be a complete company, then you have to pick up the capabilities wherever, whichever you need and wherever they are located. That means you have to go outside your country.
Sure. How did the culture of IB scholars evolve over time?
I think will evolve or have evolved.
Have evolved up to this point and will evolve from now on.
Yeah, I think up to this point, many IB scholars have been doing lots of positivistic type of research, testing lots of theories that came up in the 70s and 80s and 90s. But there is, in my opinion, that culture has to change a little bit, because we need more and more phenomenological research. We must understand lots of phenomena, because the earlier crises used to come every 25, 30 years. Now they are coming every 10 years or 7 years. So that means that there are lots of new realities out there that we have to understand. So unless we understand the context, we cannot understand the problems. So I think IB scholars should do a bit more phenomenological research and try to understand things more than to just testing existing theories.
Pervez, why do you, let me ask you this way. Yes, phenomena is important, and you said 25, before it was every 25 years. That was an interesting phenomena. Now we say every 5 to 7 years. Why is that? Why is the speed of phenomena changed?
I think the speed of everything has increased. It has to do with the digitalization or ICT technology and these type of things. The speed has increased of everything. And secondly, that now things are happening very fast. So earlier, if there was a crisis in, let's say, America, it will take 2, 3 years, 4 years till it reaches Europe, and then another 2, 3 years that it will reach the rest of the world. But now everything is instant. It goes immediately. So that's why the impact is very forceful. If there is a crisis somewhere, impact is very forceful, because we are more and more connected. We are very connected globally to everything.
If this is the case, and you're saying this is the case, are MNCs or governments better positioned to react to them in a new world order? Let's say, are MNCs going to be in a better position to handle them, or stronger governments?
Yeah, so United Nations came up with these sustainable development goals, in 2015 or so. And they have a goal that by 2030, we should try to achieve most of these. But and in the final goal, number 17, they openly say that this has to be done with collaborative effort. So how can these parts of the different parts of the society or world can work together? They mean multinational society and the government. So that means this cannot be done by one partner. So all these parties have to work together. So I think governments are realizing more and more that giving everything to open, free, private hands is not possible. This COVID has shown that it is not very efficient to leave everything in private hands. So there has to be some type of government intervention, especially in essential services, whether it is healthcare or whether it is local transport or whether it is schooling or education. So that feeling has started coming back. So as you know, I came to Sweden and I am very much influenced by Sweden. In Sweden, all these things were done by state. I hope still they are done by state. So the education, even university, every education is free. There are no private universities. There are no private schools. And education is very, very important, that everybody should have a right and should get the education and without spending any extra money. All over Europe, university education is free. When I tell this to my American friends, they get shocked that in most of the countries, UK is the only country which has copied America a little bit. So UK is not 100% free now, but the rest of Europe, all over Europe, education is free. Public transport is almost free, very subsidized by the governments, and healthcare is almost free. So you that you have to see that everything business cannot resolve. So government and business have to work together.
Thank you. Let's talk about the advice mentoring part. What was the best advice you received from your advisor or advisors?
Well, first time when I went to Jan Johansson and wrote my proposal, so he asked me to write the proposal. What do you want to do? So I have lots of things. So I wanted to study these package deals between Western countries and local. I wanted to study all steps and this and that how the bidding goes through, how they talk, and then negotiations was a small part within, and then after how they implement and do that. And then I told him that this is what I want to do, and this is very important for emerging markets and developing countries. At that time, we used to call them, and this and that. And he looked at that and he said, Pervez, have a seat here. So let's first do your PhD on very small part of all this. And after that, you can work for Nobel Prize and change the
world. True. Yes,
so,
right.
So you cannot do many things at the same time. You have to take. That's what I see. I said also that I should have been even more focused. So then I worked only on negotiation part of these package deals, and yeah.
True.
So I think, and if we want to give advice to young scholars, and so persistence is very important. Persistence is very important. So keep on. So and you succeed. And
over time, what do you see as the biggest mistake or the biggest pitfalls that young scholars, junior faculty, PhD students make? Well, what are the biggest mistakes that you commonly see?
I think commonly is the one mistake I did, that you send a paper to a journal and they come very critical comments and you get very disheartened, and then you don't work on anything else for 1 year or two. So this is the biggest mistake. You should not give up, and you must keep on working. And one thing which has become very important in our field, I guess in all academic fields, is the finding collaborations, finding other people, finding people who are working on the similar issues as you are. So that is very important, finding collaborations. You cannot solve problems all on your own. So, that's very important. But if I want to give advice, another advice is to be nice to each other, to be nice to other people. If you are nice to other people, people are nice to you. Our mother used to tell us, treat other people in the way you want to be treated by others. And that is very important. If you are nice to people, people are nice back to you. And then you find collaborators, then you work with other people. And these days, out of my publication, maybe 80% are with other people.
What's your advice for dealing with difficult referees, or when the patient gets a rejection or a bad review? The referee has given it to him from here to eternity, like, oh, you don't know anything. What's the best advice for getting over the bad referee or negative referee remark?
The best advice is to read the comments and then leave them for a while. I used to go to movies. I saw lots of movies. So you so put them aside and go to a movie or go do something else. After 2-3 days, read again. And then you will realize already you get his points better. You understand him a little bit better, and then leave it again and do something else again for a couple of days and then read it again. Third or fourth time when you read, you see how constructive the reviewer is. Really, the first impression is so negative. We have all gone through it. So you have to give it a time after 2-3 reads, and we give time in between, not just 3 reads one after another. Then you realize that there is a point here. There is a point here. So, of course, there are some reviewers who are very negative, and some reviewers who are less negative. But luckily, we really don't know whether this is a paper from a very young scholar or this is a paper from an established scholar. So we treat everybody as if they are established scholars because they have submitted a paper to a journal. So that's why you cannot blame them. You cannot blame the reviewers. But these days now, there are even many other venues where you can go and get constructive feedback, like paper development workshops in all conferences, doctoral colloquiums in all conferences, where you sit face to face, and 1 or 2 professors read your paper and give you comments, and often constructive comments, how you can improve your things. So that's what younger scholars should do.
Thank you. Pervez, what is one question I should have asked you but haven't?
Yeah, I think you should have asked a little bit about the balance between private life and work life, because this is very difficult issue. In my opinion, some people suffer. And in an environment like America, I am not sure if I am right or not, but in America, the pressure is too high to get through the tenure system and all these type of things. That means people really work very hard. Europe is much more humane. And so this is my opinion. Europe is much more humane. There is not that type of pressure. So for some people, they get used to focusing on work life, and they forget about family life for first 10-20 years of their life, which is not very good. So creating the right balance between public life, for private life and office work life is very, very important, and that you have to learn right from the start. Otherwise, it's too late.
Sure. How easy or how difficult is it to make a transition from Europe to America, or from America to Europe before tenure for junior faculty?
Well, in the most countries in Europe, there is not that type of tenure system. There is only 2 years or 3 years maximum probation period. And if you are performing very well, they tell you right from the beginning when you are employed that we expect that you write, let's say, 1 or 2 papers in the next 2 or 3 years, good papers, and then you teach that there are no complaints, that you teach nicely, you are good with your students. And then most people, 90% or more, go through that period, and then they are confirmed. So they are permanent employees. That's it. So pressure is not that high as in America. America, after 6-7 years, go for tenure. And I hear story that more than 50% get rejected. And then poor people have no way, they have to go to find another job, and the other employer knows that you have been rejected. This is very tough life, in my opinion.
Anything else that we should talk about?
Yeah, we can talk about the journal, which I started, International Business Review.
Sure.
That because that time when I was almost fresh PhD, 5-6 years after, there were lots of discussion in Europe that there are good journals are American, and they are not very friendly with the paper coming from outside. They were, at that time, it was considered they are very parochial, and so on. So number of efforts were made in Europe, also in Uppsala, to start 1 or 2 European journals, and I was one of them. So I started the journal, and we started the journal, and luckily our journal survived. And it's again has to do with the persistence. So you keep on, and that is today one of the top 3 journals. So I think that these type of things, you must do things which the time needs. So that was, in my opinion, the need of the time for European academics to have. Now there are, of course, several other journals coming out of Europe, and yeah.
Perfect. Pervez, thank you so much for your time. This was
You're
very
welcome.
interesting. I learned a lot. I'm sure the audience will agree with me. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye. Thank you very much for having me.